Why do y'all kick out your kids when they turn 18? I live here in America, but I'm from an immigrant family and that's not how we do things. But why do so many American parents kick their kids out of home when they turn 18? Or stop supporting them? What switch gets flipped overnight? How does that change your relationship? Does it become more, well, transactional from there on out? I'm all for independence. I was encouraged to get my own place and fend for myself. But I was never charged rent for my own room or given a move-out date. I just contributed to the household like any responsible adult would until I could afford my own. Even today, more than a decade later, if my marriage went up in flames or we lost our jobs, I'd have a home to go back to with some irritating cohabitation rules, I'm sure, but no rent as such. So when or why did this become such a culturally accepted, no, encouraged thing here? Edit. There's no reason to be defensive. This is a genuine question because it's not in my culture. But also, maybe stop assuming I'm trying to insult the American way. I said I'm immigrant. Didn't say I'm not American. And even if someone isn't, you shouldn't talk down to them. Edit, folks. This is an inconsequential internet conversation. I know folks IRL in my Midwestern town this has happened to. Just not well enough to ask IRL. If you have a genuine perspective, I welcome it. Otherwise, feel free to do any of the other wonderful things life and Reddit have to offer. I'm not interested in justifying my question. Final edit. Okay. I've gotten some great perspective on the capitalist machinery. Some empathetic perspective on parenting capacity. Some solid insight into how the housing market has changed. And some really sad stories from folks who really did struggle. Take care, guys. Also, a lot of butthurt aggro folks trying to tell the immigrant she's wrong in the most condescending ways possible. But for whatever it's worth, thanks for the conversation. I'm off to bed. Good night. I left at 19 and my parents told all 4 of us girls that once we leave, we can never come back. And they've stuck to it. About 12 years ago my husband and I went through a rough patch and separated. I asked if me and our 2 children, they were 3 Mo and 3 Yo at the time, could come stay, and they told me no. I ended up staying with my aunt and uncle. My husband and I eventually mended things and I went back home, but yeah. My kids know they will always have a home to come to. I don't care if they're 15 or 50. Our door is always open to them. Heart. My parents were assholes. That's really about all there was to it. My kids are always welcome in my home, no matter how old they become. I served with 2 guys who were kicked out at 18. One turned 18 3 months before graduating high school and was kicked out. He lived with his aunt till he left for the military. Another left to the military at 17 and turned 18 while serving. Both never returned home, turning their time in the military. They have only gone back 2 and 3 times since. And this was 24 years ago. They hate their parents and don't their kids anywhere near them. Most of us don't. Woman shrugging, medium light skin tone. My 20 and 18-year-old sons live at home still. And likely will through college. And potentially longer based on the job and housing market. The same was true for both myself and my partner when we were younger. I didn't move out of my childhood house until I moved in with my husband actually. Most people don't. There is the expectation that kids start working on becoming independent at 18, get a job, but most people don't literally say, well, you're 18. Get out. In fact, most people turn 18 while still in high school. Edit. And something just occurred to me. What's actually funny is that when parents do keep helping out supporting their kids, other people shit on them for generational wealth. Lol. Recently saw something that said the origin of this stems from forcing people to make money and spend money as soon as possible. Rent, get a job, bills, have kids, and that made me think a little differently about it. My mom said I'm welcome home anytime or free to leave. Whatever I do, she'll support me. She's an immigrant as well and thinks Americans are ass backward for kicking kids out at 18. Says that's why they end up dying alone in retirement homes. 62 of recent high school kids are enrolled in college. So their version of being kicked out is really just going to school but coming back home for summers. This varies by state a lot. 2 head off the military. It may be that the rest of the parents see this as kids leaving the house, and if the kid has chosen not to go to college or the military, they too should plan on leaving the house. Some kids can't wait to get out of the house. In the end, the actually kicked out of the house may be very small. The vast majority of American parents don't kick their kids out when they turn 18. The ones who do are either bad parents, or they have bad kids. Most parents help their kids to become independent. Most kids move out when they think they're ready. My 33-year-old son is still at home. WFH, and is saving up to buy a van to travel. He pays us nothing. But when I got out of the hospital, he waited on me like a champ. They don't. It's very uncommon. I moved out at 20 just because I could, but I could have moved back home anytime I wanted. Hell, I'm 40 and I could call my mom and move back in with my wife and kids tonight if I asked. It's not the way it used to be, where you were married with 3 kids and 5 years into your career by 25. More people live with their parents at 30 than move out at 18. The same culture that does this sends their parents to nursing homes. I think it was more common when the economy was better and the housing versus earnings imbalance wasn't so bad. Also, I think it's more common in white European households than POC and immigrant families, who tend to be more closely knit. In my WASP family, after high school you were expected to either go to college or else get a full-time job and support yourself either way. You were out. That isn't affordable anymore, however. I don't want my kids to leave loudly crying. Capitalism doesn't like mutual aid. The destruction of extended multi-generational families' clans was by design. Just like the suburbs. My parents never charged me rent, but I did pay them some because it was the right thing to do. They have never asked me for a dime, and I lived with them until I was 28 and bought my own house. My mum is from Singapore and my dad is from the States. It's actually not very common. My daughter is 21 and all her friends who aren't still in college live at home. She is the only one with her own place. In my experience, the vast majority of kids who get kicked out at 18 are the ones that are out of control or disrespect their parents. And in those cases I agree to show them the door. It depends on the situation. If the kid is not going to college, some parents will tell him to get a job and find a place to live. Child support and state aid also ends at age 18. Some parents just can't afford to support their kids without it. Only parents who hate their kids do that. Shitty parents or shitty children. The only parents that I knew that booted their kids out of the house at 18 were shitty parents.